Our gospel reading today hints at something quite revolutionary, quite amazing, and speaks of the abundance of God. And yet, at first reading, we might think and consider that how unfair it seems that some people have been working all day and get 1 penny, and some come in just for the last hour and get 1 penny. The same payment, but less work. Well, my mind takes me back to when I was in America a few years ago, and I remember seeing lining up against the wall on a certain road, lots of people, mainly Latinos, who were lining up waiting to be chosen for field work or construction work. And some people would drive up in their pickup trucks and choose the first few that were in the line, and off they would go, and the others would hope that they would get chosen later in the day. It's an image that I thought would never be seen in the UK, but actually we do see this in some of our cities and some of our larger towns. Around industrial sites or shopping areas, you will see some people hanging around waiting to be chosen for work. It's a precarious life. It doesn't bring much dignity. It is one in which people who are wanting to feed their own families, to work for a living, put themselves at risk of abuse or underpayment, and put themselves at risk of not having been chosen. The parable that Jesus teaches is a pointed one, partly aimed at those who feel they've been the chosen ones for a long time and therefore they should receive the reward of God. But Jesus reverses all of this and begins to speak clearly and profoundly and quite powerfully to those who are hearing. If we place ourselves of those who've been working in the field all day, then perhaps we might too feel slightly aggrieved that we didn't receive much as a penny. But the parable says, you're reminded that you signed on for a penny a day. Don't expect any more. But if we place ourselves in those who were at the end of the day, when the vineyard owner or the steward asks, why are you still here? Their reply is, well, we're lazy. Is not. It's not because we don't want work, and I thought I'd just go out and hitch a fast one at the end of the day to get some money. No, that's not the point. What they return and reply is, because no one hired us. As those who've been working in the field all day, they have been waiting in the sun all day, waiting and waiting to be chosen, waiting to be hired, not knowing if they were going to feed their family that day, not knowing if they were going to be chosen to be workers, or remain at the end of the day with sadness to return to their families with no money. The point of the parable is not the unjustness of the workers in the field, but the liberation and abundance of God, who goes out to include all, to those who've been waiting and waiting for the grace and love and liberty of God. The abundance of God is for all. No one gets enough, more than enough. No one gets more than the other. We see that in the examples of Old Testament narratives. When the manna and the quail were given to the Israelites in the desert, they were said that each person should gather only what they need for that particular day. Everyone would have enough. We see that in the parables of Jesus feeding the many thousands. And buckets and baskets full of full food were left, of the abundance of God's provision and blessing and love and life. And we see it here in this parable, where those who've been working in the field are called and challenged perhaps to say, yes, you have now joined us. Yes, you who've been waiting and waiting, you too have been chosen. You too have been called. Come and join us. What a different ending to the parable that may have been. It's a challenge to us, isn't it? Not just to the way that we view those who have come to faith late in life. That's an existential question. But it's also a moral question to us, how we are as a community or indeed as a society, how we are towards our attitudes to those who have yet to be chosen, who feel excluded, who feel locked out, who feel they can't be part of who we are, who have looked for work, who are waiting and waiting, who feel they can't have the opportunities that others do. In these days of vaccine and conversations about who should have what and when, international trouble at how vaccines are distributed, there are those that are waiting and waiting. We who have resources are the most fortunate. Maybe there is a call for us too, to share, to include, to open our arms and welcome and share what we have. The gospel is a big challenge, not to just us as individuals, not to our interior lives only, but the way that we engage with our neighbour and outward lives. It is a challenge towards society, as it asks questions of who is included, who is an outsider, who have we locked away or blocked off from joining. These questions are not just individual ones, but social and moral ones. May we, as a church, as individuals, strive to be like the labourers in the field who perhaps in our imaginations will say, I'm so glad you were chosen too. Come and join us. Amen.